Welcome to American National Government. In this course, you will discuss the purpose, structure, and evolution of United States government.
I'm Jordan O'Connell, History and Government Instructor at Northeast Iowa Community College. This lecture distills a decade of my written notes taken from American Government, Roots and Reform, American Government by Lenz and Holman, and our course-assigned OpenStax American Government textbook. This lecture focuses on oversight, subpoenas, and the audit function. The core question is this: how should citizens judge Congress when oversight, subpoenas, appropriations, and funding deadlines are part of its policy-making work? The core competency is to summarize the policy-making accomplishments of the current Congress. How do citizens control an executive branch if Congress can investigate, subpoena, and expose misconduct, but still struggle to force correction? The struggle moves through appropriations language, document demands, staff investigations, witness testimony, and the slow conversion of suspicion into a record. Citizens say Congress should do something. Then Congress holds a hearing, issues a subpoena, passes a short-term funding measure, or releases a committee report. And many citizens decide nothing happened. That reaction exposes a civic blind spot. Congress does not prove its value only by producing famous landmark laws. Congress also acts by funding agencies, extending authorities, confirming officials, forcing testimony, demanding records, and exposing failure. Judging Congress only by whether a sweeping new statute passed this month misses much of what the legislative branch actually does. Congress operates as a machine checking another machine. The bureaucracy administers statutes, spends appropriated money, writes rules, adjudicates claims, and carries out executive priorities. Congress cannot supervise every file in real time, but it can build an audit function. Committees hold hearings, chairs send document requests. Members issue subpoenas when voluntary cooperation fails. Inspectors general brief staff. Appropriators threaten, reward, or redirect agency behavior through spending language. Oversight does not replace lawmaking. It tells the executive branch that someone outside the agency still claims the right to ask who acted, under what authority, with which money, and with what result. Current congressional accomplishment often looks technical because governing is technical. A continuing resolution prevents shutdown. A reconciliation package changes tax or spending rules under special budget procedures. A hearing can expose manipulation, negligence, or refusal to follow statute. A subpoena can force a witness or document into the open. None of that guarantees virtue. Hearings can become theater. Subpoenas can become partisan pressure tools. Funding patches can hide legislative weakness, yet each remains part of Congress's constitutional job. The civic problem is therefore one of judgment. How should citizens evaluate a Congress whose most visible fights may produce more investigation than legislation? If the chamber keeps the government funded, checks agencies, exposes misconduct, and helps constituents navigate federal systems, does that count as accomplishment, or should that word be reserved for major enacted law only? The Constitution gives Congress the power to legislate, tax, borrow, spend, and structure much of the national government. It does not hand Congress a single clause labeled oversight power. Yet oversight emerges naturally from the legislative job. A chamber that writes statutes and appropriates money must also ask whether agencies carried out those statutes faithfully and spent that money lawfully. Otherwise, Congress becomes a writer of commands with no practical follow-up. Appropriations form the first audit tool. Agencies cannot operate without money. Congress can fund them fully, starve them, fence off certain uses, demand reports before spending releases, or direct resources toward favored priorities. Authorization statutes create programs and powers. Appropriations sustain them year by year. When regular appropriations fail to pass on time, continuing resolutions keep the lights on temporarily. That move is evidence that Congress has failed to finish one job and must improvise to avoid immediate institutional damage. Congress developed hearings and subpoenas because information is power, and executive officials often know more about program operation than legislators do. If agencies held all relevant data, legislators would depend on the institutions they are supposed to supervise. Committees therefore demand witnesses, memoranda, budget justifications, and internal timelines. That process is not incidental to lawmaking. It shapes future bills, exposes gaps in current law, and signals to agencies that someone is watching. The audit function also depends on support institutions with distinct jobs. The Government Accountability Office investigates spending and management questions for Congress. The Congressional Budget Office estimates fiscal effects. Committee counsels test witness claims against statute and prior testimony. Inspectors general inside agencies generate findings that committees can elevate into public conflict. Oversight works best when Congress can combine those professional records with public questioning, rather than improvising outrage from television clips. There were alternatives. Congress could defer much more to presidents and agency heads. It could treat elections as the only real accountability mechanism and avoid heavy investigative work between elections. It could leave more review to courts or inspectors general. Instead, Congress built a layered audit practice. Oversight hearings, staff investigations, GAO reports, inspector general referrals, confirmation questioning, and appropriations riders all form part of the legislative branch's effort to monitor the executive branch without directly running it. Current Congress coverage often hides this structure because national media rewards visible conflict. A committee hearing with sharp exchanges gets attention. Months of staff review that produce the hearing do not. A subpoena fight gets headlines. The budget appendix that quietly fenced agency money for a compliance purpose does not. A better standard asks what Congress funded, what it refused to fund, what authority it renewed, what authority it allowed to lapse, what documents it sought, and what failures it documented. The modern oversight structure took firmer shape through statute and institutional reform. The Legislative Reorganization Act of 1946 strengthened standing committees and formalized staff support. The Congressional Budget and Impoundment Control Act of 1974 created the budget committees and the Congressional Budget Office, giving Congress stronger tools to challenge executive fiscal control after the Nixon impoundment fights. The Inspector General Act of 1978 added in-house watchdogs across major agencies. Those changes turned oversight into a layered system of appropriations leverage, professional investigation, and public confrontation long before any current subpoena fight hit the headlines. Congressional oversight also rests on institutional memory. Committee files, prior hearing transcripts, appropriations report language, and GAO recommendations let staff compare an agency claim against earlier promises. That record becomes decisive when a department says delay is unavoidable or when an official claims a new interpretation of an old statute. Oversight becomes stronger when the paper trail survives the press cycle. Now picture the sitting Congress as of June 10, 2026, working inside real deadlines. Members face appropriations calendars, debt politics, expiring surveillance authorities, constituent anger, agency noncompliance complaints, and party pressure to produce message wins before the next election. Committee chairs want oversight victories that show relevance. Ranking members want to expose selective investigation or defend agencies aligned with their party's president. Appropriators want to avoid shutdown blame while still extracting concessions. A hearing does not begin when cameras turn on. Staff prepare witness lists, review transcripts, negotiate voluntary appearances, draft questions, and decide what story the majority wants the hearing to tell. If a witness refuses documents or testimony, a committee may issue a subpoena. That step carries force because a subpoena is a legal demand backed by Congress's institutional claim to information relevant to its legislative duties. Agencies and private actors then calculate whether to comply, negotiate, delay, or litigate. Oversight also rides on appropriations leverage. Suppose an agency misses deadlines, spends funds in ways members dislike, or resists policy instructions. Congress can demand a spending plan, attach reporting requirements, restrict transfers, or condition new money on certain behavior. That is the audit function in fiscal form. Congress does not need to rewrite the whole substantive statute to discipline an agency. It can tighten the money channel or the information channel. Subpoena enforcement adds another procedural layer. A committee may vote to authorize the demand, staff may negotiate the scope, and the chamber may later decide whether to pursue contempt, civil enforcement, or a political settlement. That sequence can take weeks or months. Delay itself becomes part of the struggle because an administration that cannot win outright may still run the clock, narrow the production set, or force Congress to spend scarce attention on enforcement rather than on the underlying misconduct question. Casework should not be dismissed here. A constituent struggling with a veteran's claim, passport delay, social security problem, or immigration file often reaches Congress before reaching accountability. District and state offices gather cases that reveal administrative bottlenecks. One complaint may be local. Hundreds of similar complaints can become oversight evidence. A skilled member uses casework not only to help voters, but to identify patterns worth pressing on an agency. Reconciliation shows another pressure point. Because reconciliation follows budget rules and cannot carry unlimited non-budget provisions, leaders use it when ordinary Senate procedure makes major fiscal legislation hard to move. That means current accomplishments may take the form of tax adjustments, spending cuts, benefit changes, or funding shifts bundled inside a budget vehicle rather than a clean ordinary bill. Procedure is how Congress converts partisan control into actual policy under modern Senate constraints. The constitutional text gave Congress a fiscal weapon before it gave it a modern committee system. Article 1 required revenue bills to originate in the House, and Article 1, Section 9 declared that no money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. Those words were written to keep the executive from spending first and explaining later. They placed the bureaucracy under legislative financial discipline from the beginning. When a committee chair or appropriator invokes those lines, the move is not ceremonial. It is a threat wrapped in constitutional text: produce the records, defend the spending, justify the delay, or risk losing money, autonomy, or both. Congress.gov committee hearing notices, appropriations tables, and subpoena letters look dry because the leverage sits in deadlines, account language, and statutory references. The modern federal state runs on expiring authority, annual funding, and text precise enough to punish defiance. Subpoena power creates a second tension. Congress needs information to legislate and supervise. The executive branch answers with confidentiality, privilege, law enforcement sensitivity, or separation of powers limits. The machine checking the machine does not proceed politely by default. It fights over records, timing, and visibility. A subpoena therefore embodies a constitutional conflict over how much information the executive must disclose so the legislature can perform its job. Hearings add a third tension. A hearing can become serious audit work when members use records, timelines, and statutory obligations to test agency conduct. The same hearing can become theater if members chase clips instead of facts. Congress often learns, pressures, and signals through public questioning, but the quality of that work depends on whether the paper record drives the exchange or whether the cameras do. The public law category sharpens judgment. A public law is enacted text that survived the chamber gates and presidential process. That output counts. Yet a Congress that enacted fewer famous laws but forced major disclosures, blocked unlawful agency behavior, prevented shutdowns, and improved administration through oversight might still deserve credit for doing constitutional work. The question is how to weigh the audit function against the statute function in actual evaluation. Current source discipline carries force here. Congress depends on records, calendars, notices, appropriations tables, GAO reports, committee transcripts, and statutory text. Any judgment about congressional accomplishment that ignores those records will confuse noise with evidence and spectacle with audit power. Congress accomplishes something when it passes consequential public law, but it also accomplishes something when it forces transparency, keeps the government funded, corrects administrative drift, or exposes misconduct that later shapes law or elections. Those outputs differ in visibility and dignity. They do not differ in constitutional significance as much as casual civic talk suggests. That does not excuse every technical maneuver. Continuing resolutions can signal legislative failure when members cannot finish appropriations on time. Oversight can curdle into partisan performance with little factual payoff. Subpoenas can be broad, selective, or timed for headlines. Reconciliation can become a way to jam through policy with limited deliberation. Congress, like every institution in this course, deserves judgment through named acts and real consequences rather than sentimental defense. So here's the unresolved civic question. If Congress spends its energy investigating agencies, compelling documents, patching funding, renewing authorities, and conducting casework, should citizens call that real governing or second-best governing? A republic that funds a vast bureaucracy and then neglects oversight would be foolish. A republic that substitutes hearings for legislation indefinitely would also be weak. The hard work lies in telling the difference with dates, sources, and institutional humility. The unresolved question is whether oversight disciplines power or teaches officials how to perform accountability without surrendering control.
If you're curious how I'm using AI to build these lectures and reshape higher education, visit thelibertytolearn.com. I'll see you in class.